Here at On Point Politics, I've been developing my own national average, compiling pollsters and their data. And what we've done is we've actually basically weighed all the pollsters to a tied electorate of 38% Republicans, 38% Democrats, and 24% Independent. And because of that, Donald Trump is now leading the national popular vote by 4 percentage points, which would put him in potential landslide territory. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics. And today we're going to be looking at my polling average, what this means for the election, and how the map could actually shake out. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want to keep up to date with your number one stop for all things polling and election analysis in the United States. And so we clearly see that the former president now in the average is at 47.7% of the national popular vote, with Harris being at around 43.5. Kennedy, who is expected to drop out on Friday, is at about 4%. So he has a decent amount of the electorate in his column, which is fairly interesting. And we also weighed for independents too. So if he were to stay in the race and the election was held today, I'd be fairly confident he'd be getting anywhere from 4 to 5% in the national popular vote. West and Stein both below about 1% right now. They possibly get higher numbers than that. And with Kennedy dropping out, there's a possibility they may gain a tad bit, a few decimal points. Harris may gain a point, but if Donald Trump gets, that RFK endorsement, Donald Trump's vote share could go up by anywhere by a point or 2 points. So, and what we're going to do is in our moving average, we're actually going to leave Kennedy in. And the reason why we're going to do it is because we're going to track the movement of his support over time as it dwindles down to eventually at 0%, as all the polls will no longer be polling him. But as older polls keep getting removed, we'll be able to see where pollsters are actually, what the results they're posting. But we'll actually be able to see where Kennedy's breaking his support off to in real time. So it'll be kind of cool. Looking at the poly markets, the former president is now up in Arizona, Nevada, and Pennsylvania, which is the RCP polling map, which is kind of interesting. Kind of signifies that polling has to do a very big deal with the election. And guys, please do not use the 538 average. Do not use the RCP aggregate. Yes, RCP does have standards of who they let in, but they are not doing what we're doing here, which is weighing all the polls to a tied electorate to be as fair as possible. There's a good possibility that the electorate may be R+1, R+2, but I'm not even doing that. I'm just weighing all the polls to a tied electorate. So what we do is we get all the averages of all the polls, and we find their, party ID of their latest poll, and we basically apply weights. We apply it to the percentages, we add them up, and then we basically divide them here, and you get new percentages based out of the weighted results by basically putting it at a tied electorate. And once you do that, you see that Donald Trump's vote share increases dramatically. He goes up 2 points, Harris goes down about 2 points, Kennedy actually kind of maintains his support, undecideds go down a bit, and West and Stein go down a tiny tad bit per se right now. And so, obviously right now, the last 2 days, the data is almost kind of irrelevant because we did not apply the weighing system to the polling just yet. This is kind of the first time that we have the weighing system here. But even when you think about it in retrospect, this actually makes perfect sense because the former president's own personal favorability ratings have been better than ever. SoCal Strategies poll with, that we sponsored with Ready Go Politics, Trump's, vote share in terms of his approval rating, his recall job approval. So we asked voters, okay, did you approve of Donald Trump's job in 2020? And about 50% said yes, despite him getting 48% in that poll. And guess where we have him right now? We have him at 47.7% of the national popular vote right now. And Donald Trump in that poll had a 50% approval rating from his recall job approval in 2020. And what's very interesting is I asked ChatGPT what would be the median result based on all the ranges of how undecideds would break right now. And this seems to be the average, which is around 49.6, which is very close to that job approval rating that we have of him. And Harris's approval rating right now is in the mid 40s. Basically, it's in the mid 40s, anywhere from 44 to 46. And the median result has her getting 45.2%, Kennedy getting around 43.3 or 44.3%, West getting around 0.7, and we also have Stein getting around 0.3%. So it's very interesting to see that this is lining up fairly well. And what's very interesting is that this result is actually lining up with Rasmussen. Rasmussen is a very accurate national pollster. Their state polls do not tend to be the best, but their national polls tend to be spot on. In 2020, we can actually go ahead and look at our aggregate. Their 2020 average had about Biden plus 5.3% when the average was Biden plus 4.5%. In 2016, I believe they had Clinton plus around 2.6 or so, and Clinton won the popular vote by 2.1. And so right now, their latest poll has Trump up by 4 points. We're going to be able to add a new poll of theirs into the aggregate tomorrow, because they are actually going to be dropping their weekly poll tomorrow, as they always do. So the average will probably shift a little bit tomorrow. However, it is very interesting to see how this is all playing out, because we actually have an average that's similar to accurate national pollsters. You know, Rasmussen right now has Trump plus 4, and we have Donald Trump up in the popular vote by 4.2%. And when you actually look at the median vote shares in this sample here, when you look at the median vote shares, this is around where they have Trump. They have Trump at around 49%. They have Harris at about 45%. Kennedy was getting about 3%. So they have a little bit more undecideds, and they probably had West at like 1 or 2. But really, you're adding up to something pretty accurate. You know, you're adding up to something that matches, Rasmussen. It matches the job approval ratings of both candidates, which tends to be more accurate in predicting the national vote shares. And Kennedy is going to really throw this race for a loop, because if Kennedy goes out there and endorses Trump, Trump could possibly be over 50% of the electorate. And that would be really big news for the former president if he's getting about over 50% of the electorate. And so looking at, with everything considered right now, Donald Trump right now is probably up by anywhere, 3 to 5 points in the popular vote. Even if Harris were to get all the undecided, she wouldn't even be winning the popular vote right now. And so currently, based off of that, we have this map right here, which still has Donald Trump at 313 electoral college votes to Harris's 225, but Virginia and New Hampshire are dangerously close for Harris. They are basically battleground states. I mean, you could technically still put them in the lean column, but I think that the former president's probably going to perform well enough in rural Virginia as well as in New Hampshire in order to possibly get these states within a point or so. And Michigan right now, I think, is still going to be roughly about a 3 to 4 point win, even in this scenario. Possibly it's maybe a 3 to 5 point victory. It really depends on where it trends. But Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, over 5 point victories. North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. And it's funny because Rasmussen, even in Wisconsin, I mean, Donald Trump is performing 8 or 9 points better than he was in the previous poll from 2020 compared to their latest state polls today in Wisconsin. So that's also very interesting. And we're also going to be doing our own averages for the states as well. And that's going to be really interesting to do when we weigh by party, because we'll have a pretty good idea. And if Wisconsin, for example, is voting around 6 to 7 points for Trump in the aggregate, it makes sense because the state relatively has been voting to the right of the country by about 1 to 2 points in 2016 and 2020. Me and Gold Crown Politics expect the state to trend to the left. So as long as it's voting to the right of the nation, that means that our aggregate actually makes complete sense right now. And so we'll see how all of that goes down, but it is going to be very interesting to see how this shakes out here. But this is the current estimated map that I have. If you really wanted a toss-up map, you basically have, Donald Trump at 297 electoral votes at the gate, Harris at 191, and Trump kind of has the opportunity to expand in these deeper blue states that Biden won by quite a bit. But again, what's very interesting is, for example, New Hampshire 7-point win, Minnesota 7-point win, Nebraska 7-point win, Virginia 10, New Mexico 10. But what's very interesting, and then Maine 9. But what's very interesting, guys, is that it's very, very peculiar because right now, if Trump wins the popular vote by 4.2, that's roughly a little bit over an 8-point shift in the average, or at least from the last popular vote, because Joe Biden won, the state of, basically the nation by about 4.5 points. So if the nation at popular vote is shifting that many points to the right, that basically puts states like Georgia in the likely column automatically, North Carolina automatically, even Arizona in that column, Nevada, the way it's been trending to the right, would be in that column, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. So the former president may actually be on track for a pretty decent election victory that most may not actually even be expecting right now. It's very possible that the former president could actually end up doing very well, and it'll catch people off guard in some of these competitive swing states. But here at On Point Politics, we're trying to put together the most comprehensive data that we possibly can. We are trying to adjust for the electorate, and I believe us doing this does eliminate a lot of that potential polling bias you could have had. And again, undecideds are still about almost 4% of the electorate here, so they're, depending on how they break over time, is really going to shape where the candidates are going to be nationally. But Donald Trump in this race is up by a few points, contrary to popular belief from the mainstream media. And so if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you want to check out the polling average, I will leave a link in the description to the website that I have for the channel. You can see the moving average there. You can also follow me on Twitter for daily updates as well. I will see you guys in the next video.